Everyone. So today we are going to discuss the April month. Sorry, it's the April month current affairs. This is the April month current affairs, right? So we are starting with here that polity and governance. So here we'll discuss the one important topics which are relevant for our exams. And here that census 2027. Then we have the news sorts, right? So from the short news, we can see that we can expect the questions in the prelims examination. And the long one, basically the articles which are basically discussed here can be asked in the any of the civil services means examination basically. So we'll discuss all these things, and our motive is to understand the concepts, remember some points which can be replicated in the examination. So now let us begin with the census. First is the trust-based governance. Okay. So trust-based governance is basically what? So that is basically that trust-based governance. That is Viswas, right? Trust means Viswas. So basically that the government based on the people's trust, right? People's trust. What is जन विश्वास बोलते हैं, क्या बोलते हैं इसको हिंदी में? जन विश्वास, right? जन विश्वास. So basically that in the Lok Sabha, basically that the government has passed in the Lok Sabha, basically we can see that Lok Sabha had passed the Jan Viswas Amendment Provision Bill of 2026. So what is the Jan Viswas Amendment Provision Bill 2026? So it basically seeks to shift the India's regulatory approach from a punitive model to the trust-based governance. That we can see that in the our government system, basically what is happening, that the people are basically that they are basically that facing the criminal charges. They are going to they are basically put under the trial. They are put under the several civil penalties, right? So in that way we can see a number of cases are getting the pending also. So basically then it seeks to shift the India's regulatory approach from a punitive model to trust-based governance, and builds on the Jan Viswas amendment, right? So basically which what is doing, it is doing basically it decriminalize the 183 provisions across 42 central laws, right? So basically that there are a number of that laws uh, which has been decriminalized across the 42 central laws, right? So this is not important. Provision is this one, right? So basically that you should know this, what is the trust-based governance. So trust-based governance is a governance approach in which what is happening, in which you can see the peoples, in which the people institutions are expected to be reliable, responsive, transparent, and integrity driven, encouraging the cooperation and voluntary compliance rather than excessive control and coercion. So basically is seeking trust-based governance is seeking the kind of, you can say that, taking the people's trust in the institutions, right? In the public institutions, or like through what, through the through by through by being the responsive, right? Responsive, integrity driven, transparent mechanism, right? Transparent mechanism. Okay, then we have the that fair, right? Fairness will be there, reliability will be there, that suppose we have the police system, right? So all these things basically it is the trust-based governance is basically promoting what, people's trust in the public institution through the what, through promoting the by promoting what, reliance, responsiveness, fairness, transparency, and integrity driven, and encouraging the cooperation and voluntary compliance rather than excessive control and coercion, right? So this is basically the one of the idea you can write, right? If it is better, you can the remember the definitions. Okay. Now coming to the one aspect is the OECD. So you can also define the OECD definition, right? Because in the mains examination, if you write here the definition of OECD, right? So this will be basically giving you a kind of a fair approach in the mains examination. So basically the trust. So the definition of trust you can write in the ethics paper also. Like a person's belief that another person or institution will act consistently with their expectation and of positive behavior. So basically this one is the trust. Okay. OECD has defined the sorry, just wait a minute. So how does the OECD defines? OECD defines the trust as a person's belief, right? जैसे कि हम suppose if we are there and we are having the certain belief about certain person, certain institutions to perform, will act consistently. Consistently means invariably, invariably, invariably with their expectations and positive behavior. Suppose if I am expecting that the district magistrate should discharge the duty, right? So he should be expected to do that, right? If we are expecting that the police institution to maintain the law and order, right? So all these are basically a kind of making the trust. So basically OECD definition of trust is that a person's belief that the certain person or institution will be consistently performing as per the expectation of their positive view, right? So that is the trust-based governance. Okay. Now, why do we need the trust-based governance? Okay. So you can see that why do we need trust-based governance? So trust regulatory reforms. Regulatory reforms. Okay. So basically that India's governance framework has been marked by excessive compliance over regulations leading to increased transaction cost, rigid bureaucratic control, right? So basically you can see the regulatory reform. Okay. Now first the regulatory reform. So you can see there are numerous laws which are basically archaic, right? Archaic, and these provisions, their provisions are basically were made during the British period, right? British period. So obviously these laws were very much. So these laws are stringent, right? Stringent. So what will happen? This will basically will lead to what? Will lead to bureaucratic hurdles, right? Hurdles, right? Bureaucratic, rigid bureaucratic control, right? Rigid bureaucratic control regulations, right? Control. So this will basically harass. This will be harsh to the people, harsh to the people. So this may lead to the that this may lead to so a kind of that if you are exercising certain power, that people are not willing to abide by that, that will basically what will happen, that will tyranny. Okay, tyranny of institution, so that may fall. So basically this the regulatory reform is basically can ensure that the archaic laws which are stringent can be reformed and made people friendly. Okay, so this is one of the thing, and ensuring that the institutions do not act vehemently, right, based on their whims. So that is the one thing. Okay, suppose example you can write that we have the so we have 1536 laws with 69,233 compliances across various levels of government, right? Now next is the economic growth. What is economic growth? Yes, economic growth is basically trust-based governance, improve the ease of doing business by reducing the unnecessary approvals, fear of criminal charges due to non-compliance, and ensure greater policy certainty. So basically, economic growth is there, and how? So trust-based governance improve the ease of doing business, right? Economic growth. Now, if there are so many laws, right? So there are so many hurdles. You have to you have to get to so many benches. You are supposed to go to number of benches to get the clearance, and that creates the kind of hurdles, and that lead to the red tapeism, that lead to the corruptions, right? So the projects are basically delayed, and that may lead to the spur in the cost of project. So that basically kind of loss to the economy. So if we have to improve that trust-based governance, so that will basically lead to the ease of doing business by reducing the unnecessary approval and faster implementation of the projects. So this is one of the idea that the trust-based governance can also ensure the economic growth. Okay. Now next is one can also remember this one, Francis Fukuyama. So basically what he says that argue that societies with higher level of trust tend to be more economically advanced than the those with the lower level. So you can also write this example basically in the in ethics, in ethics you can write ethics paper, you can write this one example. That's Francis Fukuyama. What he says that he argues that the society with higher level of what? Higher level of trust. Higher level of trust witnesses what? Witnesses more economically more advancement than those with lower level of trust, right? Lower level. So this is the you can write in the examination also. So we have the seen the regulatory, then economic growth. Now coming to the voluntary compliance. So you can see that आपने एक एग्जाम्पल सुना होगा that government of India has come up with the ease of taxation, right? Basically that taxation was basically uh, there was something like जन से कुछ okay. So voluntary compliance basically that if the laws are basically not that much stringent, so people are will be complying. You might have heard about the Laffer curve. Okay. So Laffer curve is basically that that tax and tax rate. तो यहाँ पर जैसे आपको टैक्स रेट जैसे बढ़ता है आप टैक्स कलेक्ट हो जाएगा, ठीक है। तो जैसे जैसे टैक्स रेट होगा यहाँ पर टैक्स बढ़ता जाता है, दैट ऑप्टिमम लेवल पर क्या होगा आपका यहाँ पे क्लियर दैट if that tax rate is very high, what will happen? People will so more taxes will be collected by the government, and since the more collection will be there, so people will try to avoid giving the taxes. They will try to exploit certain take the certain loopholes and avoid the giving the taxes. So that may lead to the non-voluntary compliance basically. So basically they will not be paying the taxes. So in that case, that if the taxes are easy, taxes are easy, so people will be voluntary compliant. So that is one thing here that voluntary compliance, it promotes the voluntary compliance through the transparency, digital system, and self-certification mechanism, punitive enforcement, right? The self-certification mechanism aligns with the rules of social contract, right? Okay. Now pendency in the courts. So a number of cases are pending there, right? In the case in the judiciary. So obviously those cases can decrease. More than 5 crore cases are pending across all the courts level, like subnet courts, district courts, nearly around 85 to 87% of these pending cases are there, right? So another thing you can see that administrative efficiency will be coming. So by reducing the diversion of resources towards the monitoring minor procedural violations, a trust-based approach enables administration to concentrate on good governance outcome. So basically, administrative efficiency can be improved. How? By reducing the diversion of resources towards monitoring the minor procedure violations. तो आपने देखा होगा जैसे कि भारत सरकार ने लाया था एक कानून लाया था वो जो टैक्स है ना, जैसे टैक्सेस के लिए आई थिंक जन जन विश्वास कुछ उसका भी था, कुछ ऐसा नाम था, द सिमिलर नेम वाज देयर. So in that basically the government was trying to make sure that the people is that they are paying the taxes, and another thing that government also ensure that through the digital platforms the taxes monitoring can be ensured, and there's the people to the officers, right? The taxpayers to the income tax officers, uh, that physical meeting can be reduced, and that will ensure that there will less corruption, and the people will be less fearful. Another thing, the citizen centricity that improve the accessibility, responsiveness in public administration and making governance more participatory and citizen friendly. So basically that we are in a way ensuring that the laws are basically that citizen centric. What are challenges we can face? So we have the enforcement issues. Excessive deregulations and over-reliance on the self-compliance may weaken the deterrence against the serious violations, right? So enforcement enforcement में दिक्कत आएगी, जैसे कि आपने सुना होगा एक that law without enforcement मतलब ये आपने सुना होगा क्या नाम है, टूथलेस टाइगर है ना, जैसे कि इन्फोर्समेंट है ना, तो इससे क्या होगा, इन्फोर्समेंट वीकेंड है ना, वीक हो सकता है, क्योंकि वाई, बिकॉज अब मैं सपोज करूँ कि मैं आपको बोलूँ कि आपको कंप्लाई करना है, राइट? इफ देयर इज नो stringent compliance mechanism, so people will try to take it as easy and may not comply. Okay? So that will be one thing. Another thing, the institutional constant, that effective trust-based governance required. Effective trust-based governance required strong institutions, skilled personnel, right, and robust digital infrastructure. However, however, shortage of manpower, technological capacity, can find inefficient implementation, right? So that enforcement mechanism is there. Next is the institutional constraints is there, and challenges. Then we have the third is the digital divide, right? Digital divide. So digital divide, all the departments are not yet covered. So that can be one of the thing that the challenge can be faced. And okay, now next is coming to the cyber securities, right? So data securities concerns are also there, that you can see in a number of cases where the data has been leaked. So basically the rapid digitalization of the governance increase the risk of data breaches and cyber attacks, and misuse of personal information undermine the public trust in the digital government mechanism. So cyber security is there, cyber security concerns are also there, right? Cyber security concerns are also there. So how can we cyber security concerns? Cyber security concerns, you can see that cyber security concern, right? Cyber security concerns. Why? Because increased cyber attack cases, right? Increased cyber attack cases decreases the public trust in digital governance, right? Data breaches, right? Data breaches. So these are the concerns basically raised by the people. Like the colonial legacy distrust, India's colonial bureaucracy created a culture of suspicion and excessive control, making trust-based governance difficult. Right? So basically, now steps taken by the government to strengthen this trust-based governance. What are the steps taken by the government? So let us see this. That so we can see that participation है ना, participatory governance promote करने के लिए that what we have the 73rd and 74th constitutional amendment. Then we have the ease of doing business. So we have the that we are ensuring that the clearance is online, right? Now that third is the direct benefit transfer. Direct benefit transfer ensures the beneficiaries getting the financial benefits of government directly into their account, reduces the reduces what reduces the delay, increase transparency, fall in the leakages, right? or post transfers, right? ये आपको दिख सकते हैं. Next we can see that reduction the compliances. Okay, citizen charter is there. What is citizen charter? Charter is basically a kind of document which promises which promises which promises citizens to deliver the effective and transparent service. Okay, so that is one thing. Citizen centric basic government, building trust between the citizens and the administration through the transparent, accountable, citizen centric service delivery. Okay, so which promotes service citizen centric. नेक्स्ट इधर डिजिटलाइजेशन होगा, सिंगल वीडियो क्लियरेंस हो गया. नाउ नेक्स्ट फेसलेस, यहाँ पे यही मैं बता रहा था आपको दैट हियर है ना, दिस वन आई वाज टेलिंग अबाउट दिस. I was telling about this one, faceless mechanism, right? You can see that here faceless mechanism assessment scheme has been brought in, right? Digital public infrastructure also there. That platform like Umang, UPI, from there you can reduce the paperwork, right? Suppose now if you are there, if you are working, if you have gone for the certain interview, so there you will not required to carry the documents, and the concerned department will be verifying the documents online only, so that creates a kind of trust. Now what are the way forward? You can see then we can see now what are the challenges we see. That encourage the cooperative federalism, that center state, so that center states should work together to harmonize the regulations and simplify the compliance system, share based governance practices to ensure to encourage there are certain laws from the state, there are certain laws from the center. So by basically the center state harmonize some laws, we can ensure that fair implementation of laws. Like the citizen, enhance the citizen participation, right? Citizen participation, you can see mygovernment.in. So there you can give the feedback of certain policies. Next we have the building institutional capacities. That is recruitment of new personnel, right? Then training, training of staffs, right? ये हो गया. Next we can the technology based governance, promoting the technology based गवर्नेंस. जैसे कि आपने देखा उमंग ऐप हो गया, ठीक है, डीबीटी हो गया, the comprehensive compliance reforms. So all the things are there. Okay. Next is the census 2027.